Peel, and welcome back to Sonic Colors for the Wii. In this part we're going into Sweet Mountain, which sounds delicious. It's an okay level in parts, but yes, another thing we've been sort of discussing briefly off screen. Stephen, there's an obvious comparison to make between this and a Lost World level, isn't there?
Yeah, it's like... It's difficult to describe because like the whole factory setting and the use of sweets work really well in this because you can establish how this all works, whereas in Lost World with that sweet level it just comes off as floating in a void of nothing with floating cakes everywhere, and you never get a grasp of where this could possibly take place on the Lost Hex.
Yeah, the Lost Hex is very much one of those nothing zones, and it's like it's not developed in any way. We have very little context for it. It's just sort of there. It's kind of like the Mushroom Kingdom of Sonic, really, isn't it?
Like, with the Lost Hex, they find it, and it's apparently some sort of planet that is in the sky.
Yeah, the Lost Hex coexists with the Space Colony Ark. Imagine they're both sort of floating around the Earth in the same sort.
And from what you see of the Lost Hex, it could very well be the size of Earth, but they never established this properly.
I think it's probably smaller from Earth if you think back to that early cutscene perspective in terms just contrasting it to Tails' plane, although that could just be artistic license there. I think that is one of the biggest things that I see in why I don't like Lost World's art style, because Lost World's approach to desert ruins, because they had to go there, didn't they, is it uses the same level theme in that, there's sweets, there's donuts, all that shit, except it's just a lot more simple, a lot more basic.
Yeah, Lost World doesn't really build its world very well.
Yeah, I think what I will say in Lost World's defence, and this is really hard for me to defend Lost World, but Lost World does perform better, and that might have something to do with why they sort of simplified the art style. It runs at 60, whereas Colours is capped at 30 on the Wii. Although I think if you put Colours on modern systems, you should be able to get to 60 nowadays. That's kind of why I want a PC port of Colours.
That would be wonderful.
It would. I want to play this game at 60 FPS or more so bad. Because that's one of the things that I noticed when I got my PC, the difference between Generations 360 and Generations PC is like night and day. Because you think all them little sections in Generations where it just sort of, you get drops in frame rate. You think that section in fucking Sky Sanctuary where it just completely lags out as the building falls. No, don't get any of that in the PC one. It's fucking smooth as shit.
I do find it questionable, however, why Eggman is shooting out missiles full of sweets and cakes.
It's like the Eggman's Interstellar what the fuck ever amusement park thing, I can't fucking say it. It's like their equivalent of getting tangoed or some shit. Just get smacked with all the sweets.
Prepare to be killed by diabetes.
Oh, Christ. Yeah, well, I'm trying to think back. They haven't really, outside of this and the Lost World level, I don't think they've really had any other food levels in Sonic, have they?
No.
But it's not that I can think of. There might be an obvious one that I'm missing. In terms of other games, though, there's some stuff like this in Mario, aren't there? There's that sweet galaxy in Galaxy 1, aren't there? I seem to recall something like that.
There's probably quite a few in Mario, aren't there? Mario Kart.
Yeah, Mario's done just about everything so far.
Yeah, what's that one called from 8? Mario Kart 8 that's sort of looks like this?
I was about to say Sugar Rush, but no, that's the name of the course from Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, because that, I'm not that big on this as an aesthetic. This in... just the whole food area in general. It is one that doesn't get used as often as other tropes, because if you think, there's so many grassland levels, water levels, desert levels, things like that, whereas this is relatively unique. There's also other ones that don't get used that much, say music levels, if you think Music Plant from Advance 2, stuff like that.
I think they only work for the more light-hearted games, and like you can see us sitting into, I don't know, Adventure 2 or...
Although you say that, I still think the amusement park level in Shadow the Hedgehog is the funniest fucking thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because what they did was they wanted to do an amusement park level, but they also wanted it to fit into like Shadow the Hedgehog. So it's like you got all the gimmicks, like you got all the rings, you got the like rides and stuff. You know, all the shooting down the balloons and whatnot. Except they've gave it this really gritty colour grading. So like it's all the dark yellows and dark like all the casino-y sort of stuff. It's fucking hilarious. Like, I don't know. Like that's one of the things that when you consider that colours and shadow both coexist in the same universe, it kind of makes you wonder like, how fucked has the direction really got over the years? I mean, like, there's no consistency whatsoever.
So while Adventure 1 and 2 are good, you can't help but ponder the fact of, is their inclusion in Sonic, has it really been healthy?
Well, I do get where you're coming from there. It's like, the adventure games were the start of the problems in terms of tone. Like, I think it worked, and if they kept it at that level of, you know, like, it's a little bit edgy, but it's sort of, you know, like, it's got that sort of corniness to it that justifies it to a certain extent, that would be perfectly fine. It's just that it's sort of flanderized, isn't it? You got, after Adventure 2, you then had Shadow, which is obviously out the edge overkill, then you had, like, Sonic 06, which is, like, taking itself way too seriously for what it is. Admittedly, I still do sort of like 06 for what it is, but that's ironic. At least I think it's ironic. At this point, I'm not sure.
Colours comes off as sort of a mixture of the original Sonic games with the tone of it, and Unleashed with the whole boost mechanics and the gameplay.
No, I would say in terms of tone, this is more a lighter-hearted Unleashed. And the reason I say that is that I think the classics were edgier than this. Like, because if you remember Sonic's marketing back in the day, it was like he was the cool dude with the attitude, that kind of thing. While he's got a bit of sass here, in terms of like just the whole aesthetic around the game, like it's very much a sort of, it's fucking Sonic Galaxy, isn't it? That's the sort of aesthetic they're going for. Like, they blow that out of proportion even more in Lost World, but this was kind of the let's go the complete other way approach to Sonic.
I want to know how Eggman managed to tether together these planets. Also,
well, they're tractor beams, aren't they?
It's like they're so close to Earth. Wouldn't that also be really fucking with the gravity?
It would.
What about being so close to each other?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, wouldn't it be just like the biggest one sort of pulls the others towards it? And that's like them beams, because like there's some sort of fucking energy thing going on, like you can see around the terminal velocity and shit. But like, maybe that's kind of how it is. Although, if you think about it, it's kind of a similar approach to if you think back in CD with the way Little Planet was kind of tethered using a tractor beam. And you had that really awesome cutscene of Sonic running along it. But yes, if we're going back to the gameplay here, this is a level I do want to complain about a little bit. Because when I say Colours has slow, blocky platforming, them sections where you have to stand on a switch and wait for the laser to go around is the fucking epitome of that. Like, look at this, stand on a switch, wait for things to happen. That's, you know, it's a bit of a pace breaker, and that is like Sonic Colours' biggest weakness in terms of gameplay. But again, this is one of them games where even during these sections there's still enough vibrancy to kind of keep me engaged, if that makes sense.
Yeah, especially with what's going on in the background.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like I'm being slowed down and I kind of want it to get over with, but also don't feel bored. And that's kind of the difference, isn't it? There's enough like, and like you might say that it is quite a shallow reason to still like the game, and that's understandable, but it does make a world of difference to have something interesting to look at, even during the weaker sections of the game, I find.
Yeah, because essentially this game is a feast for the eyes the majority of the time.
Feast, and it's some
honestly, I didn't mean for the pun there. I genuinely didn't, and I hate myself for it now.
I like how defensive you get over that. Oh no,
That's
you made
because
it
I
fun.
instantly associate my sense of humour with yours, and I hate it.
Well, like you say that, but you know what would be cooler? Nice level. So this is the part where people watching don't get to experience quite the beauty of Stephen's blank I don't want to acknowledge this face. But yeah, look at this, and this is just a very slow step up. But yeah, I got through there without the lasers getting me. Totally first attempt, I swear. Like, on the whole, in terms of colours difficulty, like, it's a very easy game just to play through. Like, if you play through this game, you'll beat it in like a couple of hours or so. It's a short game, and there's not really any parts that will sort of stump you or like cause you to game over or not. Like, you'd really have to suck to struggle with colours. But if you're trying to perfect it, then it's kind of a different story. Like, it's not overly difficult, and there are other games that I've sunk way more hours into recording before just to get a good rundown. But to try and play this game perfectly, there's just a few little bits that are quite challenging to sort of learn where the hazards are. And I've noticed over time when I play games, I've started to find a lot more satisfaction, you know, replaying levels until I know where everything is and I can play it really well. I don't know, how do you guys tend to play games like that? Do you get the same sort of satisfaction from trying to master the game?
Sometimes it depends on the game for me. I can't really explain. It's just it just varies from game to game for me.
I kind of get that some games are more deserving of your skill, aren't they? Like, you're more willing to try and get good at a game you really like. But yeah, Chris, what about you, mate?
Oh yeah, I'm not really a perfectionist.
Because like with Sonic, I like to get good. Because the thing I found is there's this level of satisfaction if you're boosting through or you're just keeping the pace going in a fast-moving Sonic game. It feels so good when you beat it perfectly and you don't get hit by anything and you don't bump into anything. I think Unleashed was probably one of the most satisfying ones for that for me. Like, particularly there's certain levels like Rooftop Run Day, I think, what's the Chunan one? Dragon Road Day, that's really fun as well, and also Cool Edge Day. Like, them levels, once you've got them mastered and you know where everything is, and just the visual spectacle and just the feeling of being involved in the game and just getting it down perfectly, it's so much fucking like fun just to do.
Yeah, because with a Sonic game, it always comes off like, if you do it perfectly, this is how Sonic would be going about the situation. He wouldn't be making any slip-ups. So you kind of feel that slight obligation to try and do it perfectly.
No, hang on a minute, Eggman. Let me just fall down this pit 3 times. It'll be fine. The other game that's like that for me, it's actually not any like the classics or anything. It's actually Sonic Advance 2 on the Game Boy Advance. Like, that game lends itself so well to trying to run the game as quickly as you can, and that's because like it's not a boost game, but it's like got this boost state when you pick up a certain amount of speed, and like Sonic just starts getting the dash lines behind him, and he speeds up and you can just sort of plough through the levels really quickly. And doing that without breaking that boost speed is also like really fulfilling. But then there's other games outside of that where I just kind of find it pleasing to go through, which a lot of this comes down from the fact that I do playthroughs now, and I've sort of got that appreciation for not just having the satisfaction of my own, but also to show it off. But also stuff like Rise Star and just playing them games without getting knocked about, it's fun. If I was an alien in need of saving, where would I be? Oh, Sonic, you motherfucker.
Experience has also taught me that the best way to solve problems is to kick robot butt.
Like, a lot of the framing for these cutscenes are like very simple, and that is a fair criticism of these cutscenes, that quite often you'll just have like shot of Sonic on one of these basey areas and that's basically the whole cutscene. But I think Sonic's animations can save it in certain sections. Like, you saw him just do that kick thing, and occasionally like the interactions with Tails. Like, if you think in the first world when we had that thing where he just turned to the camera, or stick to aliens if that's fine by you. Little things like that add life to the cutscenes, which sort of compensates for the more simplistic like direction. But yes, this boss here, Stephen, have you got any memories of this particular boss?
I'm trying to remember. It's been a while.
It's admittedly not the most interesting boss. Like we said in the first part, like the bosses in this game aren't really that strong or memorable. But this one, we're going to be using the Dig Wisp just to speed things up.
So I do remember the Ferris wheel ones, but only because of the fact that it's a circle, and I kind of found it enjoyable to run around in a circle around the enemy.
Yeah, and because they're fucking pathetic.
Yes.
Which, you know, that is always a thing. And I just called this the Dig Wisp. It's called the Drill Wisp, and like this obviously was the debut. The Drill Wisp also came back in Lost World as well, which it was significantly more irritating to use. And if you remember, there's that section in, I think it's Tropical Coast, is it? The one with the water?
Because they added in a 3D section for it, which was a mistake.
Yes, it controls like fucking shit in the world.
Slow and irritating.
Yeah. But yeah, like the way to do most damage to that guy is to use the Drill Wisp and come up to him from behind. Or underneath, I guess. But he's fucking dead as well, which that boss had a bit more meat to it than the first one, but still it's kind of shit. I think the other version of like Colours bosses, like the third variety, is the most interesting one, when you say Steve? Which we'll see in the next part, so maybe I'll challenge you on it then.
Yeah.
Hey, Tails, you missed the BBBE.
I love this.
Boss beating ever.
I like how pretty much any time one of these cutscenes come on, like we just sort of go quiet and then it's me giggling.
Yeah, we'll just let you have your moment.
Yeah, I like my fun because like, there's one thing, like I know I kind of come across a bit sort of, you know, like I don't know how to put it, it's just like a bit stilted, sometimes a bit like overly formal at times, but when something tickles me and it's a bit silly, like sometimes it just doesn't stop me.
Yeah, Tails just established that the Wisps actually call their energy hyper go on. So that means, did Eggman manage to make a translator as well and find out what their energy is called?
That's a good point.
Or are they basing the name off of what Eggman is giving them?
Why would they be taking orders from Eggman? Also, Baldy Nose Hair.
Oh, God.
I like that name. I don't even care. I like that Sonic resorts to calling it Baldy McNosehead to make it roll off the tongue a bit better as well. And they also brought that up in Lost World as well, which is like one of the strengths of Lost World, I think, is that little nod.
Good intel. Keep working on it.
Hey, where are you going?
To find Baldy McNosehair, of course.
I'm sorry, I just can't help it.
And they do carry it through the other games.
I hope they bring that back in Forces. That would save Forces for me.
Just one scene. It's like you've played through the entire game and you've given it a bad opinion. And then they come out with that and you're just like, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
IGN approved.